All right, cool. We're going to go ahead and get started here at the top of the hour. Welcome, everyone, to another Avail webinar. This month, our focus is going to be around AI, right? Which is a very little known technology. And we're going to uncover some ways that our current customers are using AI for designing channel card graphics. So we did. We're going to go through, I'm going to introduce our guest panelists from Cordogan Clark and Richard Bowen. And they're going to talk about their strategies, their use cases, the ways that they've kind of different tools that they used to generate some of these cards. But to kick things off, I'll introduce myself. My name is Clay Watson. I'm the Director of Customer Success with Avail. Rob Snyder is also on the call, our Customer Success Manager. And we lead these webinars, try to do it every month on a different topic. And what makes these things, I think, even more valuable is when we bring our own customers on, give them a chance to have a stage to talk about how they're using the product, things that are working, things that, challenges that they've faced, and kind of tell their story with Avail and along with AI for this month's topic. So we're going to go over a couple of different things. If you're brand new to Avail and you're still trying to figure things out, get a lay of the land, we're going to talk about some core concepts. This is going to be a focused webinar on, generating channel cards. So I'll kind of explain what those are. I'll explain what key cards are as well. So you kind of understanding of kind of where we're coming from, what we're talking about within the application. We're going to talk about our Show Your Cards contest. So we actually pulled Alex Reed and Jason Stavanovich from our own customer base, but also from our Show Your Cards contest, which was held last year. So I'll talk a little bit about that and kind of what we aim to do each year to highlight different firms and their creativity. And then we'll dive into the topic, right? We'll dive into some of the AI use cases. We'll talk about their strategies and then also their lessons learned, right? So depending on your experience with AI. Maybe you've got an internal initiative, maybe it's a personal initiative to use AI or find use cases for AI, where it makes sense, where's a good place to start. That'll be kind of the stories that we'll try to kind of pull out from today's webinar so that you can kind of go back and have a new way to new options to experiment and ways to kind of play around with some of this new technology. We'll also open it up for Q&A at the very end. So if you do have questions for Avail, like myself or Rob, or for Alex or Jason on kind of the strategies that they've used on generating these cards, feel free to post those in the Q&A section. And then at the end of the webinar, we'll kind of close things out with answering those questions as they come through. All right, so cool. We'll start off, like I said, with what are channel cards, right? So even it will take a step back as well. So if you're looking at Avail, right? Avail is your front end to your project information, to your content, to your project libraries. And so based on that being that front end, that kind of search interface, we've also added some visual filtering that can be done, some visual graphic enabled filtering. So that's what we call channel cards. You can see here, you may have a list. Maybe you're using Windows File Explorer. You've got a list of folders and subfolders. Channels are a way that you can kind of group some of this content together, create this nice homepage, a visual interface, so that when users, your team members log into Avail, they kind of get this nice presentation, this option to kind of see these groupings of content, and then they can actually kind of click in and browse through the content and search through the content as well. So the channel cards are the kind of that first layer of visual navigation with Avail. And then if you take it a step further, is that within each channel, based on the tags and filters that you've created around the content, you can add an additional layer of kind of a visual navigation called key cards. And so those are actually specific ways that you can, again, group and filter content, but create this kind of visual graphic on top of it. So it is just presented in a way that makes the browsing experience that much better and much easier for people who are searching for content. So you can see here, we've got like our little block of tags around Revit category. And in this example, they've translated those tags into key cards, into the kind of the visuals that you see here. And those are completely customizable, just like on the channel card. You can brand those specifically. You can create your own graphics, which we'll be talking about today. And then that applies to key cards as well. So they can be highly customizable. and you can kind of create your own look and feel on both of those interfaces in Avail. So to kind of pivot from that, understanding channel cards and key cards, every year Avail hosts a Show Your Cards contest. So the purpose of that is to really kind of elevate customers and some of the work that they've done within the application, right? So when you're setting up your library and creating some of these visual interfaces, it's great to kind of highlight that work, and some of the creativity that's behind that as well. And it's been pretty impressive. I mean, it's really great. We were talking just before this webinar began on how unique every year we've got a new collection, a new creative collection of different designs. People using different tools, and creating kind of their own look and feel to Avail, which is just really, really cool to see each year. So for that contest, we reach out. Customers can submit their designs for channel cards or key cards or both. We've got three different categories that we rank those customers on. So it's best brand identity, best visual navigation, and then most creative. And then we typically pull together kind of a collection of judges and panelists, and they actually review that. A lot of it's going to be, past winners of this contest. We'll pull in different partners and things like that. So we get some outside people kind of looking at these with fresh eyes, and evaluating these cards based on these categories. So that's going to segue into my introductions to our guest hosts, our guest panelists. First and foremost is going to be Jason Stepanovich from Richard L. Bowen and Associates. And we've pulled in Jason because he actually submitted channel cards that won our Show Your Cards contest for most creative. And I'll have an example of what those cards look like in just a second. But we brought him in because he was the winner of that category, as well as the fact that he was using some AI tools to help generate some of these graphics. So we'll be able to dive into that. We've also brought on Alex Reed from Cordogan Clark. And Alex did submit some channel cards as well. He was mentioned as an honorable mention for for best visual navigation in our Show Your Cards contest. Didn't end up taking home the prize, but it was highly debated within our judges, and he was just a very close runner-up in that category, which is great. So to kick things off, I've got some things to kind of structure the discussion. I'm going to leave it mostly open. I might have some back and forth for Alex and Jason to kind of answer different questions kind of around some of these topics. But to kick things off, Alex, I'll have you start just talking about big picture. What is your take on AI? How do you see AI within maybe your own job, within the firm, within the industry? Kind of what is your perspective on this technology, and kind of how it's changing and evolving very quickly?
Sure. Yeah. I guess just like the technology itself, I feel like my opinion on AI changes daily. Sometimes it's fantastic, sometimes it's frustrating. But like any new tool to industry, any emerging technology, it has the ability to make a lot of changes. So whether those changes are solely used to improve the product or used to help improve your own knowledge of some process or some um, additional learning. That's where I see the most benefit to AI right now is just kind of using it to help improve either yourself or kind of the process or team that you're a part of.
Great. And Jason, I'll kick it over to you, kind of your own perspective on AI.
Um, well, like Alex, my perspective kind of changes daily. First of all, yeah, I mean, it's a very powerful tool. And sometimes it takes a little thinking about how to use it. I think for me personally, I think one of the most powerful things it's sort of brought to the table is the ability to, I can spit a bunch of ranting into Chat GPT and it'll spit out a legible email
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like I'm going completely psycho. Um, so just using it for those things, I mean, that kind of stuff, it's brought up, it's really increased productivity and stuff like that. But the other piece and how it certainly relates to like the channel cards is just kind of finding a starting point. Um, AI is really good. Um, are very encouraging when you kind of know a concept, but you're not exactly sure how to execute it. That's one of the biggest, at least in relation to the channel cards, besides the prompting, uh, where it kind of helped me was sort of taking my concepts from idea to reality within my own skill set.
Mhm. No, that's great. Yeah, thank you for that. I think I probably share some of the same sentiment, right? We've got a lot of different tools out there, and how often that they're changing. Finding the utility and the consistency between those tools is can be challenging, but also exciting. And there also is a big kind of productivity component around it, speeding up different processes and things like that. All right, so shifting gears just a little bit. So we talked about, your thoughts on AI, why you use AI. What kind of sets you on this course or this path to use AI for channel cards? Talk a little bit about kind of where your kind of story started, on applying some of this technology to, your work in Avail. Kind of where that started. Was there a specific problem? Was there like some sort of motivation that kind of brought you um, uh, into some of this work using AI, or was it more just around kind of your own experimentation and maybe an internal firm initiative, right, to use more AI in day-to-day work? Jason, I'll start with you this time.
Okay. Um, well, first of all, we don't, all of this decision was really personal. It really wasn't part of a firm AI directive. I think as a firm, we're still trying to figure out really what that looks like. Um, you know, Taking us all the way back to before we even got Avail, our content library was, the Wild West. Years of accumulated families, details, but no clear structure or visibility into what we actually had there. And when content is harder to find on your network than it is to jump on the internet and do a search or something like that, then people are going to, jump on the internet and do a search. So we evaluate a lot of different content management solutions. Really landed on Avail, uh, mainly a lot because of its clean interface, very intuitive for users and admins to use. Um, and obviously, it was going to be faster than looking on the internet. The other workaround that people would do is opening up past projects and taking all that time and bringing in all the metadata from those projects into new projects, just carrying bad habits and garbage forward. Um, so when we first got Avail, our first attempt at implementing channel cards is really, our families are stored in the library under a specification section. And that's kind of how we originally set up the channel cards. Um, but we kind of realized or that really wasn't conducive to how people generally searched for content. They're typically, so we kind of was decided to push it over to Revit category, family category.
Mhm.
Um, and then I started working on that, and actually that started with ChatGPT and just kind of brainstorming. I mean, even the decision to move from uh, uh, specification section to family category was
Yeah.
based on sort of discussion that I was having with my AI assistant that I called Chat. Um, um, Another big catalyst, though, was getting the pig subscription.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So that was an absolutely huge thing. Like it was really hard to really uh, evaluate what was there without having a complete all the previews in place. Um,
Yeah.
Pig allowed a lot of things. It can batch audit and compress and create images of files all at once. So it was a really, really great tool. And I'm not sure we would have, our organization would have went uh, as good as it did without that tool.
Yeah.
Um, But since I was going to be introducing a whole new sort of organization system, I wanted to have channel cards to accompany those, and something that would immediately, draw users' attention in. So, again, using ChatGPT really to just brainstorm and explore ideas and possible directions. Again, it's a really invaluable tool for getting started,
Yeah.
and just sort of mapping out different approaches to things and kind of deciding a practical path forward.
Yeah.
Then creating images with AI can be a bit of a tricky process because it really wants to veer out of whatever lane you're trying to keep it in. It wants to veer out of it like really quick. Um, so having really consistent and specific prompting was important. So I used ChatGPT to generate those. Um, and then I just plopped those into Copilot Create. Um, and that was not a something that was on my radar. It just popped up one day when I started my computer. It said, "Oh, this is now available to you." So it was just coincidental that I was happened to be doing
Nice.
some of the prompting. I shoved it into that image generator, and it started spitting out stuff I liked. So to stay consistent, I just stayed in there and
Yeah.
continued to do that.
That's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
so yeah, it produced the artwork, and then what was really important was just getting those slides and stuff into Photoshop and adding like overlays and brushes and effects and stuff like that to really bring everything together.
And I put up the kind of the end result of some of Jason's work there on kind of what the look and feel that he was able to create. And yeah, I think a lot of that shines through on the consistency. Just the individual graphics are unique, but they all kind of fall within the same theme, kind of same look and feel. But they're also, yeah, I think very visual and very attractive to, depending on what you're looking for, right? Seeing that first layer of navigation, this would be, very helpful. That's awesome. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you, kind of talk about what kind of started your motivation around, maybe kind of refreshing the channel cards. Actually, for you, it was a lot of around actually rolling out AVAIL,
Mhm.
because you started with AVAIL kind of middle of last year, and talk about that kind of that origin story, if you will, and how that kind of led into some of the AI technology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So like many firms, we were previously on Unify, and uh, the last few years they've been slowly migrating towards the Autodesk Content Catalog,
Mhm.
and we decided that that was kind of a good opportunity for us to reevaluate what we were actually using and what we wanted out of a content management solution. And so ultimately, we landed on Avail. We thought that it kind of had the best of every case that we found, both from the user experience side as well as from the management side. But we realized that we were going to need to kind of make it our own to make it successful.
Mhm.
Um, so by default, Avail is very clean, it's very organized and flexible, but we also wanted to kind of, like I mentioned, make it our own, make it into something that was Cordogan Clark specific.
Mhm.
So a big part of that was going to be the channel thumbnails. Obviously, that's the first thing that you see when you open Avail. If you keep it open on your desktop while you're working, that's just going to be on your second monitor all the time. So we wanted to make sure that it was something that was going to be very inviting.
Mhm.
Um, when we first started this process, we kind of just took screenshots of our content in Revit. We then like brought it into PowerPoint and just overlaid some text over it to make a thumbnail, but it just felt very flat. It felt uninviting. It just didn't feel like something we could be proud of as a channel.
Mhm.
So we kind of took a step back and looked at like, well, what do we need out of these channel thumbnails? Like what is the criteria for these to be successful? And the first thing that we realized was, well, we need a quick indication of what's inside the channel, right? If it points you to something completely different or gives you a different idea of what's in there, then it's not very useful.
Mhm.
We also want it to be visually appealing. It should actually look good on screen.
Mhm.
Um, we want it to be quick and easy. We could obviously spend a lot of time doing all this in a bunch of different applications. We could model it, then render it, then post-process it, but we want to be able to quickly iterate and get new channels as necessary. So the one thing we did realize though we actually had going for us is we didn't really need to be all that technically accurate with these images, right? We're not the images themselves are not a deliverable. They're not going to be dimensioned off of. There's really it's kind of a low risk situation for us to
Yeah.
try out some kind of other tool other than modeling and rendering. Um, so all in all, based on all that criteria, obviously AI image generation is kind of a really good solution for all that. Like I mentioned, no, it's low risk. We don't really have, there's no contract documents revolving around it. There's
Yeah.
no client deadlines.
Mhm.
So just a great way for us to test a tool. Now, there's a lot of different AIs. There's a new AI email I get every day about some new tool. So the question was kind of, well, which one? And for us, it was a pretty easy answer to, or it was a pretty easy question to answer because we already had Microsoft Copilot in our environment.
Mhm.
It was already licensed. We understood the privacy policy around it. And so that's kind of what we went with. Um, in the end, it was a good solution. It provided a very quick way to get accurate result, or maybe not perfectly accurate results, but close enough to when you're browsing over these channel thumbnails, it's kind of like an I Spy where you're like, oh, what is that? Huh? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting to go past. So um, yeah, I can share more about the like process and what prompts we used, but in general, that was the background for it.
That's great. Yeah, that's an awesome story as well. Especially kind of as you're implementing your Avail strategy. Yeah, starting with this type of look and feel is a great way to start. Being able to create these things consistently. And yeah, it is very I Spy. I put up Alex's cards here on the screen to kind of take a look at kind of the diversity in each one. But yeah, it's like a nice collection of different groupings. He's got some of the channel groups. And it's all kind of color coded in a way as well, which I think is a nice touch. Kind of he broken up some of the architectural versus structural versus MEP cards and kind of color coded it, which is a cool way to take it a next step beyond just the graphic itself. All right, cool. So yeah, let's turn our attention back to really kind of diving into some of the strategy that was used. You kind of both have already mentioned, prompting, right? Refining the prompting, getting it consistent, pulling it back on track to kind of what you're aiming to achieve. But then also, I think we'll kind of a good take on kind of some of the human element around some of this. Is it's not just purely AI output. There is some human refinement that was required to kind of create this and create that consistent look and feel. So Alex, I'll keep you on the mic and you can kind of dive into yeah, your overall strategy for success and kind of implementing your prompts and some of that human touch that was involved as well.
Sure. Yeah. Do you mind if I share my screen? I've actually got some slides I can share with
Yes.
kind of the process that we used.
Yeah.
We actually got really lucky when we first started this process with a very simple prompt. We tried like two or three prompts in Copilot, but the one that gave us a really good result was just an array of many wall types in 3D perspective. And surprisingly, that gave a good result. That gave us this, which again, it wasn't technically accurate. If you look here. I don't know what that is. It's not a wall, but it's
Yeah.
it's as an entire image. It's overall looks like a set of walls. You can pick apart individual pixels, but at the end of the day, it's good enough for a channel thumbnail.
Mhm.
Um, so again, that very simple prompt, we then, like you saw, formatted that into PowerPoint just really quickly to get some overall graphics, which gave us this final result. We also just kind of put a note on the upper right-hand corner that it was generated by Copilot to kind of give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
But the benefit of that simple prompt that we found, at least in the early stages, was that we could just swap out that word wall for door or for any other category, and it would give
Oh
us
yeah.
very similar results. We might have to tweak it here or there, but in general, it gave us like all these images that were pretty cohesive. I mean, they weren't exact, sure, but
Yeah.
in order to get it exact, I might have to render it myself, and I didn't want to do that. Um, so it gave us some really good options here, and like you already kind of showed, it ultimately was a really easy way to get the results that we were looking for in a reasonable amount of time. Um, now, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, so I'm going to jump in over a little bit into the lessons learned
Yeah,
here.
you go for it.
Um, but earlier this year, about a year after we did this originally, we tried going back to some of our prompts because we wanted to create a new channel. And so that channel was going to be for some life safety equipment. And so we used the same prompt. We just tweaked it a little bit, and we got this, which is not bad. It's interesting, but it's not really the same aesthetic or the same look and feel that we had previously. So we started adjusting the prompt here and there, trying to shift it around a little bit. Got to this, not quite what we're looking for. Then
Yeah.
it starts cloning people. So we keep
All
iterating
right.
on this, trying to figure out what's going wrong with this. Eventually, we get to this, which is a little bit closer, but it's a little too photoreal. If you look at
Yeah.
this corner here, there seems to be a disembodied head on the
Head.
desk. I don't really know what's going on there, but clearly something wasn't quite the same between the previous AI version, or the AI model, and what we had this year. So to kind of try to figure out what was going wrong, I went back to my original prompt, the one about the walls, and I put that back into Copilot this year, and it gave me this. So very different results, even in the
Yeah.
same exact application, just a different version of that application. So that's kind of the nature of AI models, is that they're kind of constantly trained, and so any updates that you make are going to affect that output.
Yeah.
So um, like any good design technologist, I tried to figure this out. I did testing, I formed a hypothesis, I dug into the AI source code. Just kidding. I just asked
Yeah.
Copilot. I just said, what's going on here? I gave you a prompt last year, I gave it to you this year, and I got completely different results. And so out of the suggestions that Copilot had, the one that was the most enlightening was it said to kind of extract the style from the previous image that I had and then turn that into a style prompt that I could reuse. So kind of regurgitating the prompt back through Copilot to give itself something to read.
Mhm.
So that's ultimately what I did. I took an image, the first image. I basically said, please give me a style that can recreate this image and use it so that I can recreate future images with different content.
Mhm.
And after a little bit of attitude from Copilot, it gave me this, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but effectively it describes the content of the image as well as the
Oh
style
wow.
of the image. Um, so I then took that, put that back into Copilot, and had it generate a new image for me based on that original, or based on that modified prompt. And it gave me this, which not
Yeah.
quite, but very close to what I originally had.
Yeah.
So you can see how I kind of used Copilot to try to move more towards the original point that I had.
Mhm.
Then finally, I used that prompt that it gave me. I adjusted it here or there to make it into more specific to life safety equipment, and it gave me this output, which again, not exactly what I'm looking for, but very, very close, much better than what I originally had. The
Mhm.
style is much more similar. Still not technically accurate in every
Yeah.
sense. If I zoom in, this person seems to be typing at a toaster oven,
You're right.
but still good, absolutely good enough for channel thumbnails here.
Yeah.
So if I were to summarize some of the lessons learned that I had while going through this, the first one would be, if you can, try to create most of your thumbnails at once using AI. You can
Mhm.
always go back and you can try to like shift it back here and there based on prompting, but the easiest way to get the similar results is to do it within a single generation of that AI. Um, Also use that style guide. So if you have like some guide that you can use to format those images and the content within them, that's a fantastic way to do this. I especially recommend trying to have like one or two paragraphs about the style of the image and then have a separate paragraph about what should actually be in that image, like the content.
Mhm.
That way you can change out that second piece very easily without affecting the overall look and feel.
Mhm.
And then if you ever get stuck, just use the tools to help you create your own prompts or help it fix its own prompts. So
Yeah.
like I showed, I didn't have a clue how to get back from image A to image B, but I asked Copilot to help me do that. And then lastly, just embrace the hallucinations. It was uh, sometimes some of these would I would get a really good kick out of. So I just encourage you to go with the flow and have fun with the AI. So yeah, that's what I had for our process.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that detail. Yeah, it's yeah, that's a great technique to have the tool build the prompt or build that style guide for you and then to kind of help create that similar image. That's a really good takeaway for sure. Jason, I'm gonna turn over to you. What was that similar? Was that different? What was your kind of prompt management or prompt strategy around getting your images and channel cards together? Obviously, you both have very different channel cards, right? You got to a very different result, even though you're using similar tools. So yeah, talk about your process, your strategy to get successful, kind of consistent graphics for those cards.
Sure. Um, well, first of all, I had to pull my own self back many times from what I really wanted to do, which was more artistic and less uh, practical and usable.
Mhm.
um, so, I mean, essentially going into it, what I really wanted to pop most, more than anything, were the subcategory names, the names of the channels, because I felt that was what most people were really had in their mind as they went into this interface to pick something.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let me I agree with Alex that trying to create the same images after the fact can be a little bit hairy. We went in, or I went in pretty, and I don't have everything uh, in a PDF here, so I'm just going to piece some things together. I'm going to go ahead and share my
Sure.
screen now.
Oh yeah.
So I just plopped one of our prompts on the screen here.
Oh cool.
This is what created this detail items magnifying glass um, image. Um, so as you notice here, we went in pretty detailed. Um, but what the most important language here was the bold, flat, vector style, all of these different new gradients, the warm the warm tones, and different things like that. And I could basically have it whip out these prompts, and then I could go in and sort of twist them around a little bit by adding a slightly different language while keeping the most, descriptive language in there.
Mhm.
Um, so what we were talking about before the webinar here was trying to go ahead and create a channel card image. So why don't we try
Yeah.
to do that right now and see what Copilot is going to do for us? Um, Here, I got a good one. This is one we actually I created and never ended up using. I really liked it though. Let's see what this will create for us.
Should have overlaid some sort of drum roll as this as this was
Yeah.
working on the image. And what was the was this another category that you were generating?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
A category for out of the box.
Out of the box. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Uh, so what's nice in here is that as you generate images, you can then sort of transform and
Okay. Yeah.
sort of add to the images over here. That could be somewhat tricky.
Okay.
So, um, it's quite an explosion going on outside of that box.
Yeah.
Um, but it pretty much kept the style
Yeah.
about
What
what we
colors?
would like. Then I would take this right into Photoshop and remove all the backgrounds and plop those onto into Illustrator.
Yeah.
Start creating some slides. If you want to see, this is what the slides look like without all the effects on there.
Oh, cool.
So the effects were pretty important to bring
Yeah.
those into Photoshop and put some overlays on there to make everything look consistent.
Mhm.
Um, so there's another thing, just to show you where I was, the rabbit hole I started going down. I
Oh, wow.
originally had created these characters. It was Captain Content, and this is a guy who does everything by the book.
Yep.
This is Major Model. She
That's
just
funny.
needs to get a model done, and needs to do whatever she needs to do to meet her deadline. And then there was the AI assistant who's trying to take both of their jobs.
Acrobatic.
And I
That's
had
good.
thought about having this whole story, the channel cards be a whole storyboard or whatever. Um, but that sort of uh, wasn't really conducive to my overall goal, and that was to make it quick and easy, as
Yeah.
minimal as interpretation needed as possible.
Well, if you ever do a side project and you have those
Right.
as characters, please let us know.
I'll have to do a follow-up. Yeah. See if
I
you
mean,
take that.
they might appear in the key cards at some
Oh,
point.
that'd be good.
So
Yeah. Take it a step further. No, that was awesome. That's a really good take. Yeah, I think both of you have great examples of that prompt refinement. So the little bit of tweaks that you had to do to get that consistent look and feel. Let's go ahead and Alex, I'll pass back to you. You kind of went over some of the lessons learned. Any kind of any last takeaways? Any kind of overall points that you'd like to make? And then we'll kind of open it up, see if we've got any questions, and then close things out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for me, I try to answer with AI when I'm thinking about it is I try to answer, well, what is the problem AI can solve rather than here's AI, what can I do
Mm,
with it? Just
yeah.
because it kind of can force itself into places it might not belong if you're trying to just make it do something. If you're just saying, let's use AI, it's like, okay, well, that's just kind of it's the
Right.
wrong way to go about it, right? So
Yeah.
um, for us, it worked really well in this situation. We've also tested AI in different situations where it's more front facing or client facing, and it just doesn't quite do the job. Same thing with like some automation tasks. So there's still some guardrails that have to be put around it, but overall, like Jason said, it's an incredibly powerful tool, and there's a lot that we can learn from it, especially if we're trying to have it teach us things.
Yeah.
I will say as far as lessons learned on my side, aside from the things that I already mentioned, I wish I had kind of been a little bit more structured, like I saw Jason was with his prompt recording, like showing this is the final
Mm.
prompt we used, here's how we used it, this was the end result. For me, it was just I had to go search through my chat history,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't save all the incremental images that I adjusted. I only saved the final product, and so I really wish I kind of had those to look back on to see where it started and how I
Mhm.
got to the end product. But overall, yeah, those were the things that I learned.
Fantastic. Jason, any final thoughts from your end or lessons learned, mistakes, surprises, anything that you wanted to share to kind of close things out?
um, well, I was surprised, first of all, the impact that the new channel cards had. It really kind of, users really took notice and started becoming more engaged
Yeah.
in the whole process. um, uh, I'm sorry, what were you asking me to comment on again?
Just overarching thoughts on your kind of success and strategy and lessons learned, things like that you found along the way.
Yeah, general lessons learned with AI is that it's extremely fallible.
Yeah.
It gets confused really easy. It's surprising uh, to find out how much it works like a human brain in a way. And and it is very fallible. So you do got to be very careful what you're asking it to do. Got to kind of know what it's good at. The thing that I'm starting to see happen now, and it's driving me crazy because it reminds me of like going grocery shopping and having to go to like 8 different stores to get everything I need. But now it's starting to emerge that certain AI platforms are better at certain things than
Yeah.
others. So I envision a future where, we have 4 or 5 different AI platforms doing the things that they're good at.
Yeah.
Um, and then as far as like AI, just overall in the industry, that's one where I still have kind of taken a bit of a wait and see. The AI assistance for Autodesk really has only been released for a limited number of products. We're still waiting for that stuff. Um, and yeah, I see a lot of interesting things being done with AI, but yeah, very, very guarded, very careful, very conceptual. And right now, at least, I think that's really where it shines. Again, starting with the blank piece of paper is the hardest thing. So just kind of getting yourself started, kind of getting balls rolling, concepts turned into uh, something tangible that you can uh, relate to.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, thank you for both of you for kind of telling that story. Rob, any questions, anything that's come through as far as the Q&A goes? We can.
From the viewers, there are two. B. Lore says that he likes the creative graphics. And Cal I'm sorry if I said that wrong, uh, recommends that Claude Anthropic add-in allows you to create your slides from a template and that he doesn't use Photoshop anymore.
Oh, cool.
And he
Okay.
put a link to the
Cloud article.
Claude.com for more about that, a help article. Use
Cool.
Claude in PowerPoint.
I've heard Claude is also much better at doing things like writing script and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, again, that's where I'm at right now. I've got a new AI suggestion being thrown at me, twice a week.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you again, Jason and Alex, for kind of telling your story, sharing your strategies, and discussing AI. I'm going to close things out with a couple of announcements on some upcoming dates and times and events that are going on. Um, one of which is our Confluence. We are hosting, we typically, every year we host Confluence, which is really kind of a professional development event to bring in people from the industry. We are hosting kind of 2 additional events this year, 1-day events, one in Seattle on April 2nd, another in Chicago on May 20th. And Alex Reed will be joining us at Confluence Chicago. So if you did want to come and pick his brain more on some of his AI strategies, feel free to do so. Reach out to myself if you're interested in registering for either of those events. We would be happy to have you join and be part of that discussion and that overall event. And then to look forward, looking at the next webinar that we'll be hosting, we're going to be kind of circling back on some of the AutoCAD and Civil 3D workflows that we've got. So we'll have a new webinar on March 25th, towards the end of this month, talking about our AutoCAD and Civil 3D add-in, some of those new workflows that we've added to the product for block library management, and just how that's working day to day, and some of the features and functionality that we've built into that add-in. So keep that on your radar, and we'll be sending out some announcements pretty soon on how to register for that. Um, Thank you again for everyone who attended. Thank you again to Jason and Alex. And we appreciate your all's time and again sharing your story. And I think there's a lot of takeaways from this one. And I think there's going to be we'll probably have some future webinars on different AI topics down the line. So thanks for kicking things off.
Thanks
Thanks.
for having us.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.